We know them, and we definitely love them. It's almost as though they're not even human. They seem to have their lives figured out. I bet they're so perfect. 5Ks to go. You can do this. Come on, don't stop. Wake up the kids, make breakfast, shirt isn't ironed. Let's re-record. I'm sorry. Let's just do it all over again. This is not working. That is just the tip of the iceberg. If only people knew what it took to make it look this easy. This Friday at 3 p.m. We are women. We are brave, strong, capable, unique. We are women to women.
Good afternoon, South Africa. We are all counting the days so we can proclaim officially we are in springs. With the temperatures going so low during the past months, we're still feeling cold. For my friend here, it's winter throughout the year. You don't judge. But for us, we're hoping that after the 21st, we can enjoy the high temperatures in South Africa, the sun shining again, and we can enjoy our summer clothes again. Until then, let us hold on and live one day at a time. Today, I wanted to bring to you something different. We learned that there are etiquette in many things in life, a group of rules, a group of behaviors. So we learn in finishing in schools how to set a table, how to dress, what is the appropriate clothes for certain events, what are the succession of events, what is the protocol, how to speak, how to pose yourself, how to sit, how to cross your legs to the right, to the left. There are many rules. And with the pandemic, our communication, our interaction has changed quite a lot. We do very little being personally or present. Our communication now is through social media, social networks. And would you believe that there is a proper etiquette for that? As a matter of fact, they call it netiquette. This the group of rules that are appropriate for communication through social media. So we spoke about evolution, and now is the time for you and me to evolve learning these rules. And you might be doing some mistakes. I might be doing some. Let us learn together. But from today on, we are going to sharpen, we are going to develop our skills in social media. So get your piece of paper or your cell phone or whatever you have and take note. What would be the right set of rules for communication in social media? The first one, don't like your own post. That's not polite. Then it goes, don't post or take photos of fans, customers, employees, or even employers without their permission. I can relate to that. Sometimes I see photos and I don't even know where those photos came from because people tag me to photos that it was not my photo or it was not places I have been to. It doesn't have a relation to my life and they just tag me in. We should not do that. People need to give permission. Don't tag people or pages that aren't relevant to your post. I think we need to explore this a little more. Don't tag pages or people that are not relevant to the post you are writing in that moment.
I was thinking of how, because tagging is something that people actually like doing, and they don't sometimes think of how, maybe an example of what you're saying. I'm a pastor's wife. My beliefs and my thinking system is totally opposite. Now, how does a person contravene that? Maybe you're going to now tag me in something that is controversial to who I am, to my beliefs. And we see that a lot happening. Someone is maybe endorsing a business deal or something, and they decide, okay, let me tag all of my friends, but those people are not directly involved with that business. They don't want to be part of it. And a lot of people do that to try and attract a lot of more people, like a different target market. So for example, I know that Bitumelo has a large following. So even though I know that she has nothing to do with what I'm posting, I'll just tag her on it. And that's actually very convenient. We see it also with companies where employees endorse maybe topics or suggestions that are taking place on social media that don't necessarily go with their job criteria. And we've seen a lot of people lose business opportunities, jobs because of doing that.
As we have to be relevant when we are communicating personally with someone. In social media, relevance is important. So imagine that also we're doing a live talking about maybe fashion styles or hairstyles. Then you tag or you add links to a company or to a store that is not relevant to the post you are writing or to that live you are doing. That is inappropriate. What you are looking for, it is audience. And you have to gain, to conquer your audience on the merits of your post, not tagging people or including links. Another one very interesting. Don't ask for likes, comments, or shares.
This is my favorite because with the rise of YouTubers in South Africa, we see how they mimic other YouTubers from other countries. So the line goes like, click the like button, press the subscribe button, and click the notification bell so that you can be notified of more future posts. And that, as you say, it is not proper because if you are reaching out to the right target market, obviously they will subscribe. So, like asking for it, I'm like, no, I'm not going to subscribe because you are the one who's getting paid. How do they get paid? How do the YouTubers get paid? The more followers they have, the more advertisements they get on their channel. And the more advertisements they get, the more they get paid. So by subscribing, by liking, by clicking, sharing, clicking that notification bell, you are actually asking people to I don't know, like raise funds for you. I don't know how to put it, but at the end of the day, you are the one who's getting paid. And what they like to add as well is, I'm doing this for you. This is for all of us. We're a community. Let's do it for together. Girl power. No, but you are the one who's getting paid. I'm not benefiting anything from that. So I don't think that's proper.
It says it's not proper. And of course, if you need to raise your audience, you need to work hard with relevance for that and not beg for shares, likes, and subscribes. Let's go to the next one. Use respectful language. Just because you are on a social media, you think you can criticize, be aggressive, be the rebel, or speak inappropriate language, demeriting people. That's very inappropriate, inconvenient, and impolite. Then you ask for them to like and share your channel or your profile, but resorting of bad language. No one feel comfortable to do so. Then it says, respect people's privacy and be discreet.
And that's something that we find so annoying on social media. People don't respect people's privacy. A person can easily go into your profile, take your personal pictures and use it for whatever use that they want to use or whatever campaign they want to promote. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't even know, that you can actually sue people for that or get action, legal action taken against that. So that's something that our viewers really need to be watchful for, because that's contravening people's interests. And also sometimes you endanger people, because we see people posting pictures of young kids and you can't do that, especially if that child is not yours. You either have to blur out the person's face, and also have they signed any consent agreeing to you using their image.
Another thing that is very important with the flooding of fake news, you have to fact check before reposting. You just hear something and you repost believing it is the truth, only to find out later that you were part of spreading fake news. To conclude, don't type it all in caps, capital letters, and you write that sentence in capital letters because you think you want to call attention. That's very rude. When you use capital letters, block letters throughout a sentence, it's more or less like you are screaming at someone. No voice, but those blocks are screaming at your readers. Finally, refrain from the use of many hashtags. I have noticed that sometimes you write one line, but the hashtags are so many that they are 5 lines. And I don't read the hashtags. But reading the hashtags, you even forget the concept of the message or whatever was shared. So a few guidelines, few tips that we can improve in our social communication with everything that has happened for the past 18 months. I believe we will have to resort more to social media, to video conferencing, to texts, and learning these etiquettes will be important so we reach our goal. So if you have your goal to expand your business, you're going to be more accredited because of the tools you choose to convey your message. For us, our tool of work is social media indirectly, all of the platforms to spread the gospel. But how can I do that if I don't know the set of rules of doing it properly? So we hope that we have assisted you to evolve in this new world of communication. Today, we are going to explore one topic, very curious. It talks about the Iceberg Principle. We should have done that in winter. I only feel cold just to imagine the iceberg. Let us talk about first what the iceberg means. The iceberg, as you might know, is that wall of ice that is created on the sea of which vessels are very concerned about. Because, as a matter of fact, when you see that wall above sea level, that is only 5% of the whole block of ice that is under the water. So we hear of accidents of ships that crashing against that. We read about the story of Titanic. That was the reason why that big vessel just went down and many people lost their lives. The first trip. So that came the concept of the iceberg principle. And we are going to tackle it in two angles. The first one, we talk about success. And success is the aiming or aiming result of most of the people. But when you see someone that you can rate as successful, you only see the 5% of all that it is underneath so that the person could be successful. There is so much involved. I think the picture we are showing now will clarify more, but it's a fact.
There's an example of a young lady in Cape Town who I think she has about 3 tertiary qualifications now, but it wasn't always like that. She's 27 years old at the moment, but she had to repeat her matric 4 times. When you think about it, like this is like 4 years of her life trying to achieve the same result, and she just kept not getting it right. And her story that I read, they were talking about how she says what made it more difficult for her was just because her mother is a teacher and educator, and she just could not understand, like, why do I keep failing when I have all the support at home. I have my mom who's a teacher, my family, they are very supportive of me, but she was not getting it right. So she did her matric first time, she failed, went back to regular school to do it the second time, which she failed again. Then she decided to leave normal school to go to a college in Cape Town. When she got there, she worked hard and she passed. However, when she tried to further her studies, she found out that that college that she had attended was not registered with the Department of Education. So that year and that money that she had wasted literally did not benefit her at all. So she had to actually find another institution to finally get her matric qualification. And after 4 tries and finally getting her qualification, she went to a tertiary institution in Cape Town. And what I liked about her story, which ties into another show which we had about perception and perspective, she said when she arrived in tertiary, she was so clear that she had worked so hard to get there, that she was determined that she was going to actually work hard and achieve the next goal that she had. And she said she never failed even one module while at that tertiary institution. She didn't see herself as, I'm older than all the other first years. I failed so many times. It must mean that I'm stupid. She saw that she was capable. She could do it as long as she applied herself. And now she's really doing.
So she has
good
how
things.
many?
She has 3 now. She's still looking for a job, but she was saying that if she doesn't find employment, she is thinking of actually going for her master's. Instead of sitting at home and wasting time, she might as well study further.
So when you look at her and you say, oh, she's successful, 3 degrees, but look at the effort, the persistence, the sacrifice, sometimes the embarrassment, having to put up with criticism, having to put up with rejection, but she made it through. So we look at the 3 degrees on the wall, the certificates on the wall, but look how much it is underneath the water of her life.
And I was thinking of how it's what our generation actually likes the most. Everybody just looks at the finished product, but people don't want to actually look at how did we get that finished product. And like an iceberg, as you're speaking of the Titanic, one of the biggest mistakes was that they didn't think of what was underneath. So they just thought, when you watch the movie or read the story, you see how they actually didn't crash into it directly, but it was what was underneath that actually compromised that entire ship. And today we find something that people actually don't want to fight off, which is self-doubt. They don't realize that everybody that is successful had those moments of self-doubt. And as you're speaking of this young lady, I'm thinking of The first time, okay, she might have been disappointed, but the second time, the third time, that must have been something else. She could have easily said, this is not for me. I'm not meant for this. Or maybe I'm stupid. Or the family as well could have just said, okay, you know what? We're throwing in the towel. There's nothing that we can do with you. Settle for maybe normal employment and just move on with your life. But people don't realize that in order for you to be successful, it is accompanied with a lot of sacrifices as well. You have to say no to the things maybe that you like and that seem convenient. As she's saying that, she's not just saying, I'm going to stay home and just settle for whatever job she wants. She's very persistent in believing that whatever qualifications she has on that wall, she will get that job. Hence, she's saying she'll even pursue her master's. But people have a tendency, I call it a bad tendency, of just looking at the car, the house, the marriage, the husband, the family, the beautiful mansion. But nobody asks what had to happen in order for that to take place, because there's a lot of work that goes into it, because people sometimes don't sleep the time that they want to sleep. You don't go
Late
to the
nights.
places. Yeah, you don't go to the places that you want to. The sacrifices that families sometimes even make instead of them going on a vacation. It's so easy for our young girls nowadays to see a woman saying, I'm going on vacation. But she didn't grow up probably going on vacation all her life, but she was saving in order to get to that point. So that's something that people need to consider with every successful story. In order for you to know the true lessons, go for what is underneath what you see.
One of the things that calls my attention for success is discipline. And very few people can learn the way of discipline, because discipline means against the odds, you're going to continue and you are going to apply yourself. You're going to put all efforts that you need to reach to your goal. In our generation, because of everything that's going around, they give up so easily. So they don't exercise discipline. They don't exercise the sacrifice of not having weekends or putting late hours at work, or even sometimes applying for a job that's not according to her qualification. It's a bit inferior. But if she embraces that job and works hard, she will get to the promotion she needs. But people prefer to give up. And in giving up, it is lack of discipline. So I think it's easy to relate to success. But there is another angle that is more difficult to deal with. We see the problem. We see the problem in the marriage, the problem in the finances, the problem in the family, and you can name, because lately we have been hearing more about problems than solutions. But the problem that you spot is just 5%. What I would say is sustaining or feeding that problem is what is underneath. And no one, I cannot generalize, but most of the people, they don't want to stop and look for, how did I land here? How this problem came about in my life? And I think one of the main ones that we can explore is marriage, because one day they were madly in love, married for life. And 3 years into marriage, they're talking about divorce. They can't bear with one another.
Yeah, and that's why it's because they didn't deal with what was underneath. They got married. We like to say to people, two people unhappy. They decide to get married to find happiness. But then they multiply the unhappiness that they have because they didn't deal with what was underneath. And people comes with problems from their backgrounds, how they were raised. I remember I had a different view of marriage before knowing what real marriage was all about. Because what I would see in my family, how they would deal with marriage. Then you come with that luggage. You carry this iceberg with you, a huge one, a heavy one. Then you think, because of the emotions, you love that guy it's nice, and always turning around the love made by the heart. Then you get married and you start having problems. And what do? You don't know what to do to sort out. And normally people, they want to solve the problem through the top, when we see the iceberg, they want to something to be done to that 5%, but that will keep growing because it's
They
what
are more
sustains.
concerned about the word you said, but they don't stop to realize why you said that word. What is it inside of you? What is the frustration that I'm bringing to you that you just said that word?
Yeah, because it's so deep. The problems that people they bring into their marriage, it's so deep inside of them that takes a hard work to discover and to really fight against that problem. And in this way, they have this iceberg in front of them. They are crashing their marriage. They don't know what to do, and most of them they resort to divorce because they think we are not meant to each other, as if you would have a person separated design for specific for each one of them. But in truth, they go to another relationship and the iceberg is there. They didn't solve the problem. And there comes again the same problem. There are many women, they think, but the same problem is being repeated. I was married before, and now I'm here with the same problem with a different person. So it's not about the relationship change partners for that to be resolved. It's about to sort out this really iceberg that they are carrying with them throughout their lives.
And we could say that what you can't see is because it has been inside of you for many years of your life. Who knows if you are trying to project the same reality of your parents' marriage into your marriage, not understanding that your husband is different. And actually, we can really say that you only come to know that person that you vow to love for the rest of your life when you are in daily basis together under the same roof, tackling the same problems and celebrating victories together. But until you have the success, look, remember what we just said. There is so many things that we need to work on until we can say we are happily married. And here and there we are going to disagree. But I don't deal with what is inside of me. He doesn't deal with what is inside of him. We don't know what is inside of each other's. And of course, we are going to clash. We are going to have our differences and not being able to solve. So we look at the problem. We have marriage problems. And sometimes, funny enough, they are not even able to make a list of their marriage problems.
Yeah. And sometimes the wife is the one who has some in her mind. I can say a long list about you. And when I remember once I did this exercise, because we have it in our book, Bulletproof Marriage. And I had a lot of things that I wanted to point, and in other way around, when came the list, my list was very short compared to my husband's list because I was so like bold to say, no, let us do this exercise. The book is saying we should do, and then it turned in the other way around. Because I thought my list will be very huge and he will really need to do everything that I'm writing here, and it was not. So because the personal problems that the person has, she doesn't know herself. And then she comes into this marriage with the short period of time in the relationship because people are rushing so much with everything. They don't date, they don't really get to know the person before getting married. And then comes those two person now with a huge problem, two icebergs, if I may say, and now they are trying to combine themselves and they keep clashing in each other.
I'm sorry you might not agree. I apologize if I will somehow hurt you, but unfortunately, it's the truth. If you just jumped into a relationship of staying together without the steps we have been talking about, without the commitment and your vows before God, that iceberg will be deeper. I would say you are only looking at 2% because the other 98 are down under. So how do you change it? Start dwelling or looking or fitting at what is underneath. Oh, we have marriage problems. What kind of problems? What are the differences that we have? This is what she's talking about the list. You would have disagreements, but when you wrote them down, you identified this is what we need to work on. Now you were working on underneath the water, not what you could say and say, we have marriage problems. We don't agree.
We also have a very common problem of kids who are failing in school. Maybe they are not succeeding or passing in the way that they should. And we see that nowadays teachers notice and they call the parents to sit down with them and say, so and so is struggling in his schoolwork. What could the problem be? And this is where many parents fail because they don't want to be the ones to blame. Because when the teacher comes to say to the mother, what is the problem? The mother already thinks, oh, the problem is me or the problem is in the house. They don't want to stop and think that maybe he has a learning disability or maybe he's going through something else that is not in the home. So they
Bullying, like we explored last
Yes.
programs. I mean, I don't know how long ago, a couple of months ago, we spoke about bullying.
Yes, so it could be a lot of factors, but a lot of parents choose to push it aside and say that no, we will help him. We will help him. We will sit down with him. We will teach him how to do his homework. But then at the end of the day, when the test comes, he fails because they failed to check what is the reason he is not passing. What is the reason she is not doing well at school? A lot of parents don't want, and I do understand that you don't want to seem like your home is not a safe environment for the child, so you will push it aside. But what parents should do is they should not only look at the fact that the child is not doing well at school. Why is she not doing well at school? Is she having problems to focus? Is she having a learning disability? Is she finding hard to grasp? Is she not persistent enough? What is the problem? And the only way that they can find that out is when they sit down with the child, is when they speak to the child, not to force the child, like, you should pass like so and so, you should do better. Take us now, schools are very expensive. So I'm paying these school fees and you are failing. Like, why am I wasting my money on you? So they're taking the wrong approach. They are dealing with the 5% of why he is failing, and they are not looking at why he is failing. And maybe, unfortunately, I also have to apologize. Maybe you, mom, you are the problem.
We are
Maybe-
apologetic, but we need to help you with the truth. We don't
Yes.
want to hurt you, but we need to speak the truth.
Yes, because maybe the mother is the problem. Maybe you are just too much on the child. Maybe you are demanding too much from the child and you are not willing to understand where is he coming from? How can I help him? Maybe you are putting him down with your words. Maybe you are calling him, in South Africa we have this term called domkop, which means a stupid child. So
Gosh,
maybe
that's
the
very aggressive.
it is. And we see how many parents, even in their anger, when the child comes with the report and saying, Mom, I failed, and the parent just bursts out and calls the child names like, you are stupid like so and so, you are dumb cop, I'm paying these fees, why? So maybe in this case the mother is the problem. Maybe you are the 95% that is below, that is making the child to fail. We see that as well in workplaces where people cannot keep jobs and they find themselves going from one job to another, or maybe they cannot even find a job and they're asking themselves, why is this happening to me? Why am I not able to keep a job? Or why doesn't this boss like me? And you don't look at the 95%, you just look at the fact that nobody likes me in this job. But don't you think to stop and ask yourself, but why is it that in every company that I go to, I end up fighting with people? It's so amazing that there are people who just, wherever they go, they just fight with people. She gets fired. I ask, what happened? No, this boss said this and this. She looked at me this way, so I fought with her. But why is it happening from one job to another? So they don't want to stop and ask themselves, did I maybe choose the wrong career? Did I study something that I was pressured into studying? Maybe my family wanted me to study that. or maybe my friends wanted me to study that, or maybe it was one of the jobs that was in the newspaper saying that these are high paying jobs. So I'm going to study this, but this was not really my passion. And now 5 years later, fast forward, you're having problems. So it's a lot that people have to sit down, look into themselves and see, where did I go wrong? What is making this iceberg to be so strong? I have to tackle the 95% so that this iceberg can disappear.
And what we have been noticing is that, physically speaking, the 95% is under the waters. And most of the reasons for the problems that we spot are inside the person. We were talking about some interesting point about career choices. Here and there, we have the high-paying careers. So people tend to make their choices not necessarily on their skills, their preferences, or what they like, and they go by what is paying more. However, whatever's paying more might not be what I like to do. It doesn't agree to my nature. People, I can tell you, I would be a terrible doctor. You could pay me millions and millions. I would not get into a surgery theatre for anything in life. So, if I would guide my career choice based on what was paying more, I would be completely lost.
There's also in the aspect of career that in school people make choices in terms of, because in South Africa from grade 10 you choose the subject that you're going to do for the last 3 years of high school, and your career path will majorly be based on the subject that you chose. We know that, today, with the world being as it is, social media, technology, things do change, but generally the subject that you chose, if you chose commercial subjects, you are going to go into accounting, commercial subject. If you chose maybe geographies and other humanity subject, you will end up in human social sciences, humanities field, or something like that. We have a where sometimes people will choose subjects that are not possibly suited to the career path that they want to have. And when they have chosen these subjects, and sometimes I'm going to use the word stuck. Now you are stuck with them. You have to make a career choice. And in future, you're finding struggles. That 90% where people are not doing the work to say, what do I need to do? Perhaps if I need to be shifting careers, or to accept that I might have just made a mistake. Maybe this was not the right subject to choose. Sometimes these subjects are chosen based on what is easier, what I'm going to pass, because I have fear that, oh, if I choose that one, or that one is too hard. So if I choose that, I will not make it. I might fail. So I'm just going to choose something that's going to, get me progressing to the next grade, get me progressing so I can qualify. But now I have to choose a career that maybe is over flooded and there are no jobs for it. So it's that time that at some point in your life, when you find yourself stuck and you've made a choice that maybe it's not serving you well today, we need to do that work. Like when I was listening to everyone speaking about what's underneath, the work is difficult. We romanticize success so much, as they were talking about the cars, the houses, and all of that, but we are not always prepared to do the work that leads to that iceberg, the little tip of it at the top. So with careers, if I have made a wrong choice and I need to maybe shift careers, I need to be willing to take maybe that lower paying job position, because I know that it's going to give me the experience to move into a different field. I may not need to go back to varsity for another 3 years or go back to school to start new subject, but perhaps I can, with experience, I can get a job that's an entry level position, get experience, learn that industry, learn that field, and then move on. But also with social media, people are under pressure to be showing that they're successful, that they're doing well, that, you've been out of university for 10 years. Where's your house? Where's your car? So there's so much pressure that people are making wrong choices for the sake of looking successful when they're actually not.
You were mentioning about, let us explore one example. You guys were mentioning about the choice in grade 8 or 10.
Grade 10.
Grade 10. It's more or less the same in my country. When we are heading to a choice of career, we are already going to do the 3 last years before what you call here to write the exams. There, you graduate first, then you write your exam. Here, your graduation depends on writing that exam. So you already have to channel to your choices. And one of the high pace and fashionable professions now are the technical side. So now we are in the phase of lots of engineers, IT engineers, computers are the biggest trend at the moment. And maybe you are very frustrated because you're not progressing. But when you look backwards, when you had to choose pure maths, you decided to choose
Math literacy.
that would be easier. And now you see yourself at the short side because you need that. I remember the old days, and you helped me with the right code. Many would go to their driver's license doing the code 10. Maybe you guys did it.
I did code 8.
In many there did. Why? Because when you do code 10, that is the one for trucks, even though you don't plan right now to drive a truck, you don't need to do parking. So many would go to code 10. They would get a license, but then they are on the streets and they have to park and they and they can't park. The lines are here and they are crooked to the side. Anyway, I did my full course, my P1, 2, and 3, I did overseas, and it takes you 5 years to be considered a full capacity driver. So I'm excluded from the I didn't choose code 10, please.
I have to confess, I'm like the lady in Cape Town. I have done my driving test like so many times. Like I've done all the code 8, the code 10. I did them all, but I never gave up because I started driving at 18. Like when I started learning to drive and I was allowed to drive with someone next to me, even though I didn't have, in the township when you're just driving around the
Learners.
township, I'd be with my brother. And without even a learners at that point. So I was 18 years old. So I've been driving for a long time. But I remember when I failed my first code 8 test and the driving instructor from the driving school, he was so kind. It's like I was in varsity, I think in my second year. He's like, don't worry, we are going to do this together. We are in this together. We're going to do it again. And I remember looking at him and saying, I'm the one who failed, because he was trying to encourage me, but I was so disappointed that when he was,
And you were looking only at the problem. I failed again.
I failed. I was not looking at, and Miss Massa, it was so bad. When you in South Africa, you do the steep hill. I failed at the steep hill. I was like, we are done. Like, thank you very 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
But code 10 doesn't do the steep hill. That's why they go.
You do the steep hill as well. So I had to
Code 10.
Yes. So I had to repeat again, and I even lost my learners. Like it expired. I had to go, but I persisted like the lady in Cape Town. And finally, I was like, no, code 10 it is.
Confessions.
And I've been driving for more than 10 years or 12 years with my code 10. And I did practice my parking because I had taken my code 8.
But didn't come to that point that, okay, you passed, you had your driver's license, and now you have to park.
Because I had
side parking.
Yes, I think because I had practiced.
Not in the bay of the shopping center.
No.
On the
parking.
streets
I am
of Johannesburg,
I am
side parking.
great at parking.
That little bay over there. How did you feel?
I was great at parking, Ms. Master, because I had done a code 8 first. So I had done all the practice. It was just that with the actual test, I did not succeed. So for me, it was a matter of, I've been driving since I was 18 without a driver's license. I have a learners. I have done all the lessons for code 8. I just need this piece of paper.
I think I have a question. After the test, how many trucks did you drive after that?
None. I just wanted to be given the paper, like, you can drive now. So, like the lady in Cape Town, I didn't give up.
She's looking at the success. Now, there are many people who are, unfortunately, in financial loss. And they are looking at the problem of how am I going to pay my debt? How am I going to save my house? How am I going to save my car? They only look at how they are going to solve that problem. They can easily do it. They can find a way that they are going to sort out their debts. But if they don't look underneath, they are going to incur in debts again. Because for you to come to a situation that you see yourself in debts, you need to stop and think, how did I land here? Am I an overspender? Am I a compulsory buyer like we had? Am I buying what is not necessary, or do I want to keep up to a trend or to a status that is not mine or is not necessary? Because many of these status that are advertised out there, they are not really necessary. My husband has a very typical example, and all of you know, but let us share with our audience. He says there are certain kinds of watches or labels, different brands, digital, gold, diamond. There are watches that cost about 200 rand, but there are those that you can easily pay 500,000 rand. But he says something very simple. When you look at the time, it's going to be 3 o'clock p.m., the time of our program, in a high-end or low-end watch. It doesn't change the time. If you are late with a Mont Blanc or whatever you may call a fancy watch out there, you're going to be late with a 200 rand watch. So there are people who put themselves in debts just to keep up with a status that is not even necessary. Because if you are wearing a branded cloth, a high-end cloth, and you make the right choice for something simpler, you're going to look presentable as much. But if you don't align your preferences, if you don't understand what has been underneath that made you to come to this debts that you have, you might unfortunately have lost your job, your business during the pandemic, but did you consider about resizing your life? You had 2 cars. Now we need to keep one and redistribute the schedule of the family. How can we save in groceries? Because maybe you are used to do the groceries in the way you did before, and you don't realize how many things you are throwing because they are expiring before being consumed. You think you need to give the best to your children, and we agree about that. But giving the best is not buying 5 different kinds of Kellogg's, or how do we call cereals? Thank you, not the brand. You buy 5 of them knowing that your child doesn't like any. So what is under the line that made you to come to this financial loss that you find yourself, or you're just trying to come out of it? You need to look at underneath so that it doesn't incur that loss again in your life.
And just to add something there, I remember reading a quote from a Greek scholar many years ago. He said, before you can heal a person, you have to make sure that he's willing to give up that thing that made him sick. So that's why a lot of doctors ask, if you go to a doctor and you say, I'm sick, they will always ask you and check the 95%, right? What are you eating? What's your daily routine? And then before they can give you medication, they tell you you have to give up some of the things. So a lot of people, they want to have financial freedom, but they are not willing to give up the lifestyle that they know is causing the financial problem. When a person is sick, you need to give up the thing that makes you sick. If you're not going to give it up, unfortunately, you're still going to be sick for forever. So there are 95% things that you really need to give up in order for you to be healed.
And the 95% holds the key to the success that you are looking for.
And another point is spiritually as well. We find so many people, they're like, that toddler in the store that's just screaming and rolling on the floor with the tantrum, like, I want it, I want it, I want it, I want it. That child at that moment is just looking at that sweet. I don't know if a lot of parents know this. I don't know in other countries, but in South Africa, usually the candy is always next to the till point.
Yeah.
And you see parents sometimes trying everything that they can to distract that little child from seeing that, because that child does not look at the 95%. They don't care that in the trolley there's food, there's yogurt, there's this. As soon as that child sees that candy, they want it and they don't care about anything else. And we find people doing the same with God. You want that blessing so much. You ignore everything else that God gives you. You ignore everything else that God has been blessing you with. So this person is there like, my God, why am I not getting married? I put this timeline. Like, we have people that set dates like maybe 2021.
That is too awkward for me. We simple human beings who can't discern right from wrong decide to fit God in our calendar.
And then the person says, no, 2021, I have to get married. Like, I want to get
But
married.
you don't even have a boyfriend.
You don't have a boyfriend. Or maybe the person that you're dating, you can see that he's not a suitable partner to you. But then because you're so fixated, like, my God, I want everything to work. God, why are things going wrong? And sometimes, there are people that I always say, God does the heavy lifting. God does everything for everything to go wrong for you not to get to that point. Maybe the catering company cancels. Then there's lockdown. The number of people now, there's no more celebrations. There's no more this, there's no more that. And then there are those that are so stubborn that they actually go through with it. Now you're in that marriage, it's not working out. And then now you're fighting God. But my God, where are you? Why did you allow this to happen? I'm in the church. I've been here for X number of years. I'm praying. I've been faithful. And some even bring out now what they should be doing as not like because you're doing God a favor, but it's what is biblical. I pay my tithe. I pay my offering. Where are you, God? Are you alive? If you're the same God in the Bible, show yourself. But they never look at themselves and ask themselves, what is my part? What is my 95% that I'm doing? Because God is not unfair. He will never pick people, because there are people sadly that think God has favoritism. No, God favors this one more. That's what this one is testifying. There's always something that you haven't given, that you haven't surrendered to God in order for Him.
Or you haven't listened.
And you haven't listened to, because there's so many people that sometimes, I remember one example where one person wanted to go into a business venture. And that morning, before going and signing the deal, they actually passed by the church. And when they were at the church, the pastor was like, are you sure? Like, yes, pastor, I'm going for this. I found this person online and they are promising to do well and stuff. And the young pastor, not even knowing much, the Holy Spirit guided him and said, how about you start at the police station first, because it involves money. Start at the police station, make an affidavit that should anything happen or anything go wrong, then you have backup. And the person said, yes, pastor, I will. As soon as they left, they did the opposite of that. 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the same person was there crying. Same day. No, my money is gone, pastor. I can't find the person. We're calling, we're doing this, we're doing that. And I remember the pastor asking the person and saying, but did you go to the police station? Because at least you have your guarantee in that. And the person said, I didn't. And the question of the person was not, why did I not listen? It was, why did God allow it to happen? Where is God? Like, how is God doing this? And that happens a lot spiritually. It goes to an extent of people even blaming God for their own non-conversion. No, my God, but I am weak. Why don't you give me strength in order for me to give up this sin? But God is not the one that's sinning. It's you that is indulging in that.
end watch. It doesn't change the time. If you are late with a Mont Blanc or whatever it you may call a fancy watch out there, you're going to be late with a 200 rand watch. So there are people who put themselves in debts just to keep up with a status that is not even necessary. Because if you are wearing a branded cloth, a high-end cloth, and you make the right choice for something simpler, you're going to look presentable as much. But if you don't align your preferences, if you don't understand what has been underneath that made you to come to this debts that you have, you might unfortunately have lost your job, your business during the pandemic. But did you consider about resizing your life? You had 2 cars. Now we need to keep one and redistribute the schedule of the family. How can we save in groceries? Because maybe you are used to do the groceries in the way you did before, and you don't realize how many things you are throwing because they are expiring before being consumed. You think you need to give the best to your children, and we agree about that. But giving the best is not buying 5 different kinds of Kellogg's, or how do we call cereals? Thank you, not the brand. You buy 5 of them knowing that your child doesn't like any. So what is under the line that made you to come to this financial loss that you find yourself, or you're just trying to come out of it? You need to look at underneath so that it doesn't incur that loss again in your life.
And just to add something there, I remember reading a quote from a Greek scholar many, many years ago. He said, before you can heal a person, you have to make sure that he's willing to give up that thing that made him sick. So that's why a lot of doctors ask, if you go to a doctor and you say, I'm sick, they will always ask you and check the 95%, right? What are you eating? What's your daily routine? And then before they can give you medication, they tell you you have to give up some of the things. So a lot of people, they want to have financial freedom, but they are not willing to give up the lifestyle that they know is causing the financial problem. When a person is sick, you need to give up the thing that makes you sick. If you're not going to give it up, unfortunately, you're still going to be sick for forever. So there are 95% things that you really need to give up in order for you to be healed.
And the 95% holds the key to the success that you are looking for.
And another point is spiritually as well. We find so many people, they're like, that toddler in the store that's just screaming and rolling on the floor with the tantrum, like, I want it, I want it, I want it, I want it. That child at that moment is just looking at that sweet. I don't know if a lot of parents know this. I don't know in other countries, but in South Africa, usually the candy is always next to the till point.
Yeah.
And you see parents sometimes trying everything that they can to distract that little child from seeing that, because that child does not look at the 95%. They don't care that in the trolley there's food, there's yogurt, there's this. As soon as that child sees that candy, they want it and they don't care about anything else. And we find people doing the same with God. You want that blessing so much. You ignore everything else that God gives you. You ignore everything else that God has been blessing you with. So this person is there like, my God, why am I not getting married? I put this timeline. Like, we have people that set dates like maybe 2021.
That is so awkward for me. We simple human beings who can't discern right from wrong decide to fit God in our calendar.
And then the person says, no, 2021, I have to get married. Like, I want to get
But
married.
you don't even have a boyfriend.
You don't have a boyfriend. Or maybe the person that you're dating, you can see that he's not a suitable partner to you. But then because you're so fixated, like, my God, I want everything to work. God, why are things going wrong? And sometimes, there are people that I always say, God does the heavy lifting. God does everything for everything to go wrong for you not to get to that point. Maybe the catering company cancels. Then there's lockdown. The number of people now, there's no more celebrations. There's no more this, there's no more that. And then there are those that are so stubborn that they actually go through with it. Now you're in that marriage, it's not working out. And then now you're fighting God. But my God, where are you? Why did you allow me this to happen? I'm in the church. I've been here for X number of years. I'm praying. I've been faithful. And some even bring out now what they should be doing as not like because you're doing God a favor, but it's what is biblical. I pay my tithe. I pay my offering. Where are you, God? Are you alive? If you're the same God in the Bible, show yourself. But they never look at themselves and ask themselves, what is my part? What is my 95% that I'm doing? Because God is not unfair. He will never pick people because there are people sadly that think God has favoritism. No, God favors this one more. That's what this one is testifying. There's always something that you haven't given, that you haven't surrendered to God in order for Him.
But
now,
you haven't listened.
and you haven't listened to, because there's so many people that sometimes, I remember one example where one person wanted to go into business venture. And that morning, before going and signing the deal, they actually passed by the church. And when they were at the church, the pastor was like, are you sure? Like, yes, pastor, I'm going for this. I found this person online and they are promising to do well and stuff. And the young pastor, not even knowing much, the Holy Spirit guided him and said, how about you start at the police station first, because it involves money. Start at the police station, make an affidavit that should anything happen or anything go wrong, then you have backup. And the person said, yes, pastor, I will. As soon as they left, they did the opposite of that. 5:00 in the afternoon, the same person was there crying. Same day. No, my money is gone, pastor. I can't find the person. We're calling, we're doing this, we're doing that. And I remember the pastor asking the person and saying, but did you go to the police station? Because at least you have your guarantee in that. And the person said, I didn't. And the question of the person was not, why did I not listen? It was, why did God allow it to happen? Where is God? Like, how is God doing this? And that happens a lot spiritually. It goes to an extent of people even blaming God for their own non-conversion. No, my God, but you know I am weak. Why don't you give me strength in order for me to give up this sin? But God is not the one that's sinning. It's you that is indulging in that sin. But you find many of them saying, no, it's too hard to quit this. I can't quit it. I need God to intervene, to give me strength. His word is that strength. God does the 95% that people, they also do that with God. They don't want to look at the 95%. They only want to look at the top, which is, I got it. And they don't look at everything God has been sustaining you with, because I'm thinking the advice that we're given all the time, that is 95%. The testimonies that we see, the programs that we watch, the studies that we participate
The
in,
word of
the
God.
word of God on its own is everything. But many people ignore that fact, and it's so easy to just demand and look at the problem and say, no, my God. And we find those that go to the extreme of saying, my God, if you don't give me this, I'll leave you. And it's like, how are you going to leave God when He's not the one that is stopping you from success? Because He even says in His word, He's not unrighteous to not bless those that should be blessed. So I think that's something that our viewers really need to think about and look at. With the icebergs that you have, the thing that you always say constantly, a new pastor arrives in the church. We've heard this many times. Pastor, for many years, and I've spoken to all the pastors. They like saying that, some of them, like, every pastor that came here, I spoke to them. I expressed to them, and I don't know what else God wants me to do. I have done everything. The truth is, you have not even begun doing what you are supposed to do. You're doing what you think God wants you to do.
There is a third angle to this subject, but that we are going to leave for after the break. So if you still want to learn a little more about this Iceberg Principle, stay tuned.
Here I stand, forever in your mighty hand, living with your promise written on my heart. I am yours, surrendered only to you. You set me in your family, calling me your own. Now I belong to you, Lord. I need your spirit, your word, your truth in my life. My deep desire to know you more. In your name, I will lift my hands to the King. This anthem of praise I bring, heaven knows I long to love you with all I am. I belong to you. Here I stand, forever in your mighty hand, living with your promise written on my heart. I am yours, surrendered only to you. You set me in your family, calling me your own. Now I belong to you, Lord. Your spirit, your word, your truth in my heart. My deep desire to know you more. In your name, I will lift my hands to the King. This anthem of praise I bring, heaven knows I long to love you with all I am. I belong to you.
And back we are, hoping that you are very curious to still find out another connection to the Iceberg Principle. And that is a simple one. How much from your life you share. The Iceberg Principle, 95, 5%. But there are those that are inverting the iceberg. They are sharing 95% of their lives on public social media, public spots, with their groups, in church, at work, with family, and they only keeping 5% from themselves. Before you share much of your life, you need to ask the question, is it really necessary that everyone knows about the particulars of this event. Is it really necessary that everyone knows about this conquest? And in the same way, now changing the vision to the problems, is it really necessary that I share the problem that I'm facing with all my friends, with those that maybe will not have the condition to guide me? When is the right time to seek for counseling, for help? And when you come to the conclusion, the 95% against the 5, that is the right time to seek for help. The next question is, who is able to help me? Because if I'm going to seek help among those who are living the same kind of problem or lifestyle that I am in, I'm not going to be helped. So I need to look for someone who's going to bring wisdom, light to the situation, who will be able to open my eyes to what I cannot see, who will be bold and courageous, like we have been today, to show to you the 95% that are under the waterline. But what I wanted to add on to you today is the 5%, the 95%, there is someone who sees that all. And that someone is God. So God knows about your success and about your failures. And He wants to help you on the way. Let us read together Psalm 32 from verse 13 to 15. It says, "The Lord looks from heaven. He sees all the sons of men. From his dwelling place, he looks out on all the inhabitants of the earth. He who fashions the hearts of them all, he who understands all their works." If there is someone who sees that all, and he balances and reasons on all things, it's God. He is the one whom you need to turn to share your victories, your conquests, because you know deep inside, it's not your own capacity. It was God helping you. And when we fail, there is God from heavens looking at all of us. He sees the inside. And He fashioned us so that He understands our works. So when we fail, He has the answer. He is the one who can help you to see the 95% that are hidden inside you and are the key to your success. We want to invite you to trust in God. You might be in denial, not looking at the 95%, not looking at the reasons of your failure. You don't have that courage, but God wants to help you because He is the one who has fashioned your heart. He knows your works and He knows the way out. He is the one who's going to walk that path with you. We want to invite you to pray with us and right now to commit to God your success and your frustrations. Whatever happens, He has the way. Please close your eyes and join us in prayer.
My Lord and my Father, we unite this day, my Lord, in your name, in faith together, believing, my Father, that this message, the words that were spoken today, will find a home, my Lord, in the right place, in the right mind, among all the audience who are listening today. Holy Spirit, when we do the work in the 95% that is underneath that needs to be done, it is you who always gives us the nudge in order to give us the right direction. And when we are willing, when we have spiritual ears, spiritual understanding to see ourselves for what we really are, not what we want to seem, not just looking at the 5% of success, but when we are sincere to do the work that needs to be done, you always lead us and you will never leave us to be embarrassed, my Lord, because you want us to be the best versions of ourselves. That's what you created us for. So I ask you, Lord, that today in this moment, if there's anyone who was listening to this program and they have realized that perhaps they've been taken by the glamour of the 5% of success that they're looking at, or perhaps they've only been looking at the symptoms of their problems, but not really taking time to do the work, to see where they are lacking perseverance, to see where they are blaming other people instead of looking at themselves, to see, my Lord, where perhaps they have not been supportive to their children or any other situation. Give them the wisdom, my Lord, to be able to listen to your word, to listen to where you are leading them, and to have the courage to do the work that needs to be done. Because with you, you have fashioned us in the way that you want us to be. You know our potential. You know the struggles that other people do not know. And my Lord, you are there by our side as you promised that you would never leave nor forsaken us in order to help us achieve the success that we want, even better than what we have in our minds. So today, my Lord, I surrender all these people whose hearts are willing to do what is right before you, that indeed the change, the transformation may start today as they take the first step, my Lord, to tackle the 95% of what they need to do. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Amen.
To think that this all started with a decision to take one picture. Now that's the power of a decision. Join us this Friday at 3 p.m. and let's find out where that takes you.
Next week, we will be back, and that is going to be our topic of discussion. And we count you in. God bless you all. Bye-bye.